The coffee in my mug had gone cold, sitting untouched for an hour on the worn oak table in my Willow Creek cabin. Across from me, Virginia's Attorney General, Thomas Reed, sipped his own coffee, his eyes sharp despite the exhaustion etched into his face. He held a thick folder, 6 months of my life reduced to paper. Forged liens, fake violation notices, a relentless campaign of harassment. Every document was a calculated move to steal this cabin, the last piece of my grandfather's legacy. This little haven of wood and memory on the shores of Willow Creek was my battleground. Reed closed the file, meeting my gaze with a look that said he finally believed me. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, the front door didn't just open, it exploded. The frame splintered, the lock shot across the room and lodged in the drywall, and coffee sloshed over the table's edge, rippling in chaotic rings. "Get out of this house now. Vacate." The voice sliced through the dust. Standing in the shattered doorway, silhouetted against the crisp Virginia morning, was Linda Grayson. Pink blazer, crisp slacks, HOA badge pinned to her waist, clipboard raised like a gavel. Her eyes were cold, unyielding. She was the self-proclaimed ruler of Willow Creek Estates. To me, she was a thief with a title. I didn't stand. I set my mug down, letting her glare slide off me like water. Predators hate it when you don't flinch. 2 township officers loomed behind her, hands on their belts, looking like they could wrestle bears. Linda had dragged them here on a welfare check. Her voice cut through the quiet cabin like a blade. "James Carter, this is a notice of immediate compliance inspection." She stepped inside, her heels grinding on the debris of my door, her eyes scanning the room like a hawk. Then she saw him, Thomas Reed, Attorney General of Virginia, sitting at my table. For one glorious second, Linda froze. The smug certainty on her face cracked, and something like fear flickered in her eyes. The officers behind her hesitated, glancing at her for direction. Her clipboard dipped slightly. I took a slow sip of my cold coffee, watching her mind race. I'd seen that look before, in far darker places, a predator realizing the prey was a trap. Reed placed his hands flat on the table, his voice calm but laced with steel. "Ma'am, do you have a warrant to enter this residence?" Linda recovered quickly. She was sharp. I'll give her that. The fear vanished, replaced by a sneer. "A warrant? I'm the president of the Willow Creek Estates HOA. My authority comes from the bylaws, Article 7, Section 4, unrestricted access for compliance verification." She recited it like gospel, as if her rulebook trumped state law. "I almost see you. System," almost laughed. She thought her title made her untouchable. She was wrong. For months, she'd been squeezing me, trying to force me out. Fake fines for my lawn's height, citations for my boat's canopy color, a forged lien claiming I owed thousands for a non-existent community fountain. My grandfather built this cabin with his own hands in 1958. It was his gift to me, not hers. I'd spent years in dangerous places to protect people back home, believing in law and order. Yet here I was, fighting a petty tyrant armed with a clipboard and a smirk. Reed started to stand, his voice firm. "Ma'am, I'm the Attorney General, and I'm telling you." His words were cut off by a low hum, then a sharp click as the cabin went dark. The officers' radios crackled with static. A flash lit up the windows, followed by thunder that shook the hills. A pine tree snapped, crashing across the driveway, blocking the only land exit. The officers paled, muttering about stepping outside to get a signal, retreating to the porch as Linda's men pushed deeper into the cabin. The lights were out, the fridge silent, my laptop screen black. I heard my wife, Sarah, move in the next room. She was my rock, my calm in the chaos. My body recognized this moment. The silence, the controlled environment. This wasn't a random outage. I peeked through the curtain. The morning sun glinted off Willow Creek's waters, where 3 pontoon boats sat, not drifting, but anchored, one at the cove's mouth. 2 fanned out, forming a blockade. Linda wasn't throwing a tantrum. This was a calculated siege. Her smile was cold, triumphant. She'd filed a fake noise complaint for 7 a.m., ensuring the officers arrived as she kicked in my door. She wanted Reed here to witness her power. Out on the lake, the boats formed a perfect triangle, their canopies lowered to cut the Winda textbook interdiction. Someone had coached them on how to box me in, to make the state watch helplessly. The power cut, the boats, The goon sit was a show, a declaration that my slice of heaven was her territory. Reed's face was a mask of disbelief. He'd come to discuss white-collar crime and walked into a hostage situation. Sarah whispered, "Comms?" I shook my head. "Dead. Cell, internet, everything. Military-grade jammer. Linda rented it through her husband's shell company gray market. No paper trail. She thought she'd won, cut us off from the world. She had no idea who she was dealing with." My grandfather smelled of sawdust and lake water, a man of firm handshakes and sharp tools. This cabin was his masterpiece, every plank a testament to his labor. He taught me to fish on this dock, to skip stones across the calm water, telling me this place was an anchor, a home to return to. After he passed, I brought Sarah here for peace. We fixed the roof, stained the deck, settled into the lake's rhythm. Then Linda Grayson became HOA president. It started smell a notice about my mailbox being an inch too low, a warning about unapproved wildflowers my grandfather planted decades ago. I thought it was a joke, a woman with too much time. I was wrong. It was a test, probing for weakness. Most neighbors complied, painting fences beige, removing wind chimes, paying fines to avoid trouble. But this wasn't a weekend retreat for Might Was Home. I pushed back, quoting her bylaws at HOA meetings, proving her fines were baseless. That made me her target. The war escalated. She called my fishing boat a commercial vehicle, tried to ban it. Her goons measured my grass at dawn, making a spectacle for the neighborhood. Sarah and I fought back, setting up tiny cameras in birdhouses and tree knots, recording every threat, every whispered plan to make it too expensive for the soldier boy to stay. Then came the forged lien $18,000 for a non-existent shoreline project, my signature copied from an old document. It was her endgame. Force a foreclosure, let the HOA buy my cabin cheap at auction. I called the state, and after weeks, Reed agreed to meet me here, wanting to see the ground where the crimes happened. Now he was trapped with us, a witness to Linda's siege. Her goons, let's call them Brick and Boulder, moved through the cabin, searching, not inspecting. Linda stood by the door, arms crossed, smug as ever. Reed stayed seated, a neutral witness, knowing his power lay in courtrooms, not here. I leaned against the counter, feigning calm. "All right, Linda. You've had your fun. Kicked in my door, cut my power, holding the AG hostage. What's the point?" Her eyes narrowed. "Compliance, Mr. Carter. Ensuring this property meets our standards, which you've ignored." Brick opened my fridge, pulling out milk, lettuce not inspecting, searching. Boulder rifled through drawers, lifting coasters. "Looking for illegal throw pillows?" I quipped. Linda's smile was venomous. "We have a credible tip you're storing illegal substances." Reed inhaled sharply. This was her real play plant evidence. Frame me, force me out. But we were ready. Every corner of this cabin was wired with Sarah's cameras, streaming to a closed network, not the jammed internet. The smoke detector camera caught Brick at the fridge, the bookshelf camera watched Boulder. I needed to keep them talking for clear audio. "Illegal substances?" I said, faking a tremor. "I'm a veteran. I don't touch that stuff." Reed stepped forward. "Linda, this is too far. You're fabricating a crime. As an officer of the court, I order you to leave." She laughed, sharp and ugly. "You're a guest in my community, Mr. Reed. You have no authority here." Brick moved to the fireplace, picking up my grandfather's old cigar box, now holding fishing lures. He glanced at Linda, who gave a subtle nod. This was its setup. He fumbled the latch, ready to find something from his pocket. I let him open it, the camera catching the empty box, his hand reaching for a baggie of white powder. He thumbed it open, a dusting falling on the lid. Reed's jaw tightened. I didn't blink. The next frame would ruin him. Then Sarah's voice rang out from a Bluetooth speaker. "Got it. Subject 1, male, Caucasian, polo shirt, removing a plastic bag with white powder from his pocket, attempting to place it in the box. Clear shot from cameras 4 and 6. Audio hot. AG present." Brick froze, the baggie in his hand, his face pale. He knew he was caught. Linda's smugness shattered, her eyes darting to the speaker, then the back room. "What is this?" she hissed. I smiled. "Evidence, Linda. Something you fake, but don't collect legally." The trap snapped shut. She thought her jammer made her safe, but our internal network was untouchable. You're bluffing, she spat. Your systems are down. I shook my head. You cut the power, not the batteries. You jammed the outside signal, not the one in my house. Sarah's voice returned. Drone prepped. Roof hatch open. Trying to get above the jammer's ceiling for a signal. Linda's eyes widened. A drone? That's a violation of Article 9 no aerial photography, without approval. I bit back a laugh. A felony standoff, and she's quoting rules. The drone's hum sounded above a modified commercial model, fast and quiet. Sarah reported, I see the blockade boats, Linda's car blocking ours, a man at the junction box. Great footage. Linda lunged for the speaker. I stepped in her way, a wall. She stopped, fear flickering not of me, but of my calm. Get that drone down, she shrieked. It's over my property, I said. Soon it'll be over public water. Nothing you can do. Sarah updated. At 500 feet, jamming's breaking. Flicker of connection, not stable. Linda smirked. I think of everything. But we had a backup. Sarah, go to plan B. Wake up Charlie. A new voice crackled through cheerful, static-laced. Neighbor Charlie, call sign Kilo Echo 9 Tango. Hamshack's up. What's the trouble, Big Wolf? Reed looked bewildered. I nodded reassurance. Charlie, a retired engineer 2 coves over, was our ace, his house bristling with antennas. Sarah said, Charlie, I've got a video file. Transmitting on secure HF band. Can you catch it and mirror it to the email I gave you? Can a bear fish? Charlie boomed. Send it, I'll catch it. Sarah sent the evidence file, bypassing the jammer. Seconds later, Charlie confirmed. Package received, clean and clear. Prize-winning footage. Sending it up the flagpole. Over and out. Then the sky darkened, a bruised purple swallowing the sun. Thunder rumbled, waves churning. Linda's boat's party pontoons, not storm-ready, bucked wildly. Her face paled. My boats. My men. She wasn't the queen anymore, just a woman who'd endangered her own. One goon ran to the door. They're gonna capsize. Reed looked at me. We have to help them. It wasn't a question. Despite everything, her lies, her theft, I couldn't let them drown. My grandfather didn't raise me that way. Sarah, radio Charlie. Tell him to call the sheriff and Coast Guard. Boat's in distress. She nodded, heading to the radio. I turned to the goons. You? I pointed to Boulder, no rough water. He puffed up. Driven a speedboat. Close enough. With me. I grabbed the cigar box, dumping the lures, and headed to my dock. My boat, 20 years old, deep V hull was built for this. The storm hit like a fist, rain stinging, dock slick. Boulder fumbled, but helped untie the boat. The engine roared on the second pull. We pushed into the cove, waves slamming us. The nearest pontoon was sinking, its crew bailing with a cooler, losing fast. I pulled alongside, a risky dance. Throw a line. Boulder caught it, tied it off. 3 men jumped into the churning water. We hauled them in, soaked and scared. Their boat capsized as we got the last aboard. The other 2 boats struggled, one heading to shore, the other floundering. Sarah's voice crackled. Drones up, capturing everything. Sheriff's on the line. Coast Guard's 20 minutes out. We saved 6 men, our boat heavy and slow. Back at the cabin, lights flickered on the junction. Boxman had fled. The siege was broken by nature's wrath. Inside, the rescued men huddled under blankets, sipping Sarah's coffee, their bravado gone. Reed took statements, now the investigator. Sarah set up her laptop, turning the TV into a monitor. Let's start, she said. Footage played. Linda spraying weed killer on my lawn, her goon loosening my mailbox, tires deflated, hose left running, petty warfare, all recorded. Then the forged lien, a copied signature exposed by Sarah's software. Financial records showed HOA funds funneled to Linda's shell companies. The men realized they'd been her victims too. Then Henry Blake, the HOA treasurer, stood, trembling. There's more. A private ledger on a thumb drive in her desk. Passwords Rosewood 58. Linda's eyes burned with rage, but she was cornered. Reed asked, where's the drive? Her sunroom office, Henry said. Linda snapped. You need a warrant. But I remembered something. Sarah, pull the 1958 survey. She overlaid it with a satellite map, revealing a 60-year-old error. Linda's sunroom was on my land. Reed smiled. MS. Grayson, your office is on Mr. Carter's property. You're trespassing. I grinned. You have my permission to secure my property, Attorney General. Linda lunged for the door, but Boulder blocked her, his pity outweighing her power. At dawn, I led a flotilla fishing boat, a sheriff's patrol, AG agent stow Linda's glass mansion. She ran for her speedboat, but the sheriff's vessel cut her off, sirens blaring. Agents entered her sunroom, finding a red thumb drive under a false panel. The ledger was hers, proof of her empire's crimes. Deputies cuffed her goons. Henry confessed fully. A tow truck dug up Linda's roses for the new community garden. Weeks later, I sat on my dock, feet in the cool water, the cabin whole again. Sarah handed me a water bottle, leaning on my shoulder. The old HOA was gone, Linda and her husband jailed, their house for sale to repay the community. Neighbor Charlie drifted up with a pie, a thank you from his wife. The lake was quiet, peaceful. A granite marker stood on my true property lineal line that said, "This far, no further." I'd fought for my grandfather's anchor and won. What would trudge through the mud of this story? Should Linda have faced consequences for her actions, or was it justice for her to try to steal your home? Could James and Sarah have done more to ensure her downfall, or was it enough to expose her crimes? What would you have done in their shoes, fought back, or let the storm take its course? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.